Hello, everyone out there in TV land. I'd like to say that. I don't know why. It shows my age, I guess. Anyway, we're missing our friend Jay tonight, but I am here in Nico Prime Time with.
Why are you so quiet?
Because I'm waiting for you to introduce yourself. That's why.
Listen, let's get right back to the comedy DVD. We got Nico Primetime over here. We're covering who?
Tonight we are covering Alfred Hitchcock because he recently had a birthday and he has been so influential to many filmmakers since his time and even during his time, and even he has helped many actors succeed and actors who have influenced other actors. So this goes on forever.
If there were degrees, it would be its own game, like Kevin Bacon says, whatever.
Third degrees, 3 degrees of chemistry. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Mhm.
Who's up first?
Right. So there are three movies that we watched. Two are more popular than the third. But I wanted to mention two first before we get into something really exciting. Well, the three movies we want to talk about are uh, what do you call it? 39 Steps, Jamaica Inn, and what do you call it? Rear Window. Now, Jamaica Inn. It's a story based on Daphne du Maurier's book, I guess. And Daphne du Maurier is the author of Rebecca, which was redone several times. I think the first one was done by Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock, who, and it was a very popular version. Now, I mentioned Jamaica Inn because it was in 1939 when Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz comes out. Big year, big year. And it was fairly popular for that year. But this was when Hitchcock was in England still, and he was using an English class, which were wonderful. Charles Laughton, uh, Maureen O'Hara, wonderful, two of the best of that time period. And what do you call it? Yeah, so yes, of course. And then you transfer. Then he transfers to America. He has more American actors, but that's during the war. And before this, also he's still copying some techniques from the 20s German movies that he would watch. Also, he's developed his storytelling, and when he was working on producing and directing, what do you call it, Jamaica Inn, it takes, first of all, it takes place on the English coast of Cromwell, which is where, if anybody knows, Doc Martin is right now. It's a lot of cliffs. Anyway, that, and also he was constantly working with other people who were also in charge in this, and that's why a lot of people don't support this as his best, because it wasn't his best. It was like everybody else's best. You know what I mean? So
It's important to note that when we were talking earlier, there was more than one discussion surrounding Jamaica Inn and how much involvement Alfred himself actually had with it, because he wasn't the only one there. There were other producers. They had a lot of different, let's say, requirements and things that they liked. So
right. Sure.
rather than him being able to just sit down or sit back and do his thing, he had to contend with some other ideas.
Yeah. All right. So, so briefly, without getting too far into it, Jamaica Inn is a story about these scoundrels, that's control an area by raiding ships that have crashed and profiting off of them, and then it goes into Charles Laughton. Charles Laughton is the main character here and tries to help Maureen O'Hara, and then ends up. Spoiler alert! 1, 2, 3. what do you call it? Ends up being against her in this movie. I won't get into it, but it has a very shocking ending, actually, and a shocking ending for the time as well.
For a movie
Because
of 1939, I believe, like you said before, a year of Wizard of Oz itself, it does have. You would not expect an ending on a movie like this
no,
during that time period at all. At
no,
all.
no, because you didn't know where the movie was going to go, and then when you finally get to the ending, um, he kidnaps her, and then it really escalates really fast from there, from that point on. Actually, the whole movie is kind of well, it was fast paced for the time. I guess if you watch it now, you're like, this is so slow. But I mean, for back then, it was pretty fast paced. And it was
Yeah, no,
actually,
it had a good pace to it. Yes,
but
it was not a slow burn. You know what I mean?
right, yes,
Yeah.
but it also was um oh, I forgot what I was going to say. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But all right. So, in comparison to another kind of fast-paced but more popular one, 39 Steps.
Okay.
And I love 39 Steps. Oh, that's what I was going to say about Jamaica Inn. I like Jamaica Inn when I'm like um, watching movies, old movies with my mom. It's just a light movie, and that's what I was going to say. And 39 Steps
Yeah.
to me is also a very light movie, even though for that time that was made in 1935, even before
35.
this. And and so the I guess quality is questionable, but I normally have seen a lot of these Hitchcock movies on TCM. In fact, I also have uh, I forget if it was free or not, but it was very cheap to do it. I learned a class, Turner Classic Movies hosted a class about Alfred Hitchcock, and that's how I learned some of the facts that I know about Alfred Hitchcock.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was cool actually because they did talk about 39 Steps, and oh wow. If only I knew enough about movies to like host and be a host on TCM, ha! I would love that job. I love the host on TCM. It's just a great channel. Anyway, I digress. Um,
That's a good channel. There's a lot of fans of that channel on that
yes.
side of my family.
Oh yeah, great. Hey, that's wonderful. But they don't all. It's not all black and white movies on that channel, by the way. They have like if you're in the middle of
They
the
have
night.
a nice variety. Yeah.
They if you put it on like in the middle of the night, you would even get things even today made today, because they have that. I forget what they categorize that. But they have that block of time that they just throw on whatever they feel like throwing on, cult
I
classics and
never
stuff.
noticed that.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's good.
right. Yeah, yeah. I forget the name of the host. A woman. I don't forget her name. But anyway, I'm totally going off the deep end here. We're trying to stick on
No, you're
topics.
fine. You're just talking about how you like to frequent Turner Classic Movies TV network,
Yes.
and I know people that also watch
Good.
TCM, and there's a lot of reasons. Oh, there's a lot of nice reasons to go there. Okay.
Right. So
Right.
now that we sold that,
So next,
39 Steps. It was also made into a play. I mean, both these Jamaica. I don't know if Rear Window was a book or not. It may have been, but
yes,
it
yes,
was okay. So all three of these movies were books.
yes.
To my knowledge, 39 Steps is the only one that actually was a play. And I saw the play version. Oh my God. It's the same script, but they exaggerate all the movements and it turns this spy thriller into a comedy. And there is some comic elements to the movie itself, but it just comes across much more when you watch it live. At any rate, because you have four people playing the main characters, all the characters, and so they're running around. They're literally running circles around each other, trying to get the lines in, and that's what adds to the comedy of it, especially when they're on the train. 39 Steps. What is it about? Do you remember?
39 steps.
Yes, it's about steps.
Our guy arrives in London. Okay, he saves a nanny from a hit and run driver. They discover that she's actually a spy, and but spoilers, three, two, one, one, two, three.
Yes.
They're trying to stop the military secrets, and after a woman is killed, Hene goes to Scotland and attempts to stop the plot's leader himself. I'll just stop right there.
Yes, but let me back up for a second here,
Yeah. Oh, it's
because
fine.
the opening sequence here is spells out music hall, but put together and it looks like musical, and which is
Yeah.
kind of like a very odd opening sequence for a movie. But it was to make a bigger point that that what goes on in this music hall is going to be important. And back in the 30s, there was a lot of dive into the clairvoyance at the 20s and 30s, and you have this interesting character called Mr. Memory. Uh, and you're thinking, what is this person? And you kind of move on, and then he shows up at the end again, which I won't get into. But I'm like, what? He's back? I thought we got rid of him. Like this, I thought he was a minor character. Dun, dun,
I don't
dun.
think we'll ever see him again at all.
Yes. So, all right, we're in Scotland, and we learn more and more about who this character is and what his mission is, or we think we know. And then, at the he even trying to escape, he pretends that he's some kind of political opponent or whatever, and gives speeches about the nation, just trying to
Yeah, he
hide.
was giving a speech. I'm like, what's he doing? So like now he thinks he can do everything.
Well, on the in the stage version, you have him speaking, and then you have the other characters like falling asleep while he's speaking. It's really hilarious, actually.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Um, and that goes into this girl that tries to, or woman, I guess, that tries to have him arrested because they think that he's dangerous. Well, they find out that he's not. Blah 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 blah. It goes on, and it ends pretty well. So that's well, it ends well for him. I'll just leave it at that. It was good. It was light. It wasn't too deep, and for 1935, it was pretty fast paced. All right, I think that's
Yeah.
good. Did you have anything more about those two movies before we move on?
Just let me jump in there with 39 Steps. When I was giving
Sorry, that's the steps.
brief or my rather quick story
Right.
or synopsis, I was
Yes.
trying to get to that there was a train scene. We did take a train, and when we were going to transition really quickly from where we were, probably in the first act, almost the second act,
Right.
there was
Oh,
a scene where
yes.
a woman could have maybe discovered a body or a murder, and instead of her shriek or scream, you heard the train that came, and then the transparency came through, and we were already set up for we're going to have the rest of our story move on the train, and I thought that that was very creative.
Yeah.
I didn't think that he was even making really like cool, well thought out, and like just fun moves like that back then, and
Hmm.
he was doing it.
Yeah.
Proofs in the pudding.
Yeah. There's a quote. But what do you call it? So some of his devices even go back. Even we're drinking on camera here. That's okay. It's delicious. We're not supposed to advertise. But anyway,
Oh, so don't advertise for water. Yeah.
although I did for TCM, kind of. But anyway,
You
uh,
did? Oh, okay. That's a whole network. Don't even worry about me. Worry about yourself.
oops, I'm not really advertising. Just said I liked it. Okay.
39
All
steps.
right, 39. So, yes. So, what were we saying? Oh, yes. There were
He
some
had a quick
devices that he.
transition,
Yes, that the
and then
version.
someone was yelling.
Yes, so that had to do with, like, as I talked about, the shots that he would copy from the German filmmakers. But also, these are
Yeah,
devices when you're disguising something or you're trying to uh, have a juxtaposition of characters or moments or whatever. These these kind of storytelling devices even go to Shakespeare and before, actually. That's how
yeah,
old some of this stuff is. I mean, so anyway, he developed these in on film, and then people have copied and whatever. Anyway, now
yeah.
uh, Hitchcock Hitchcock has made
Yes.
an array of movies, wonderful, a lot of which we know are very well
A lot
known.
of
Yes,
movies.
another Daphne and du Maurier one, which was very famous, was The Birds short story. I remember The Birds. I won't get into it, but I just remember the one scene that was very claustrophobic, where the windows were boarded up, and the main characters were sitting there in silence, and all you heard were these birds attacking the room. It was pretty scary, actually. But anyway,
Now, I'm going to take that time since you brought it up to
yeah.
kind of just. I want to run this by you.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't thinking about it until now, but I was sort of thinking of like I was thinking about this before, just mulling over in my head.
Uh-huh.
Was Hitchcock in any of these movies, whether we're talking about
Oh my God, you didn't. Okay, go on. Yes, go on. Go ahead. Finish your question. Yes.
well, no matter which one we're talking about, did he take an advantage of using a score? Was there like music, or did he just rely on the ambience of what was around? Because he does that a lot.
Uh, you asked two excellent questions about Hitchcock. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
All right. Oh, this is good. We know what we're
He
supposed to do.
was one of the forerunners of putting himself into the movie.
Oh
He
yeah, that's right.
he
That's
is
right.
in almost every single movie. I don't know if he was in Jamaica Inn, but he was. It's hard to find him in some movies, but he is.
Wait. Rear window. He winding a clock.
Oh, maybe I have to go
I think
back,
so.
but
I
yeah,
think he was winding a clock in Rear Window.
yeah. But like
Think,
in Psycho, for example, he's crossing a street.
right.
Uh,
But he,
yeah.
he was one of the first
No.
actors to put himself in, right?
Oh wait, maybe I'm confusing movies. I thought Rear Window he was getting to a bus, but that could have been another movie. Never mind.
It could. You talk and I'll look it up.
It doesn't really.
You want to
But
talk about Rear Window? Let's talk about that.
okay, but the music. I forget who produced a lot of his music, but yeah, he wanted music that was very very uh, mood setting for the movie. For example, Psycho.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And he got it. He got what he was looking for.
Right. Yes. And also the other thing is he would consider his movies, and this is quoted from TCM, um, dark comedies, most of them. Even
Okay.
Psycho. Psycho was not meant to be a horror movie. It turned out to be because people were horrified by it, especially at the time. But
Yeah.
anyway, Rear Window. So if you ever saw the movie Disturbia, which I call the teenage version of Rear Window, you pretty much get the movie.
It's Rear Window, Nick at Night version.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. More Nickelodeon.
A little bit more, but yeah, yeah. But the titles, what do you call it? The credits say James Stewart, but everybody who know James Stewart knew him as Jimmy Stewart. At least when I was growing up, that's what they called him. He's from Pennsylvania. So is Grace Kelly. She's from Pennsylvania too. She's from the Philadelphia area. Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, Jimmy Stewart was from Philadelphia Street, maybe in Indiana, Pennsylvania, which is like
Okay.
5 hours
Yeah.
west. I went to school out there anyway for a year. Anyway,
Pennsylvania is a large place, my friend.
Indiana, well, Pennsylvania is, but I was like Indiana's like yeah. But anyway, um, he some of his earlier movies was. Uh, um, the Shop Around the Corner, which was later remade with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. You've Got Mail. So that was the shop. Yeah, that was the Shop Around the Corner. Anyway, so that was one of his earlier works, and then we get all the way up, and this is one of his later works where he's getting more gray. So anyway, yeah, and great. And another thing about Hitchcock were his blondes, and he loved Grace Kelly, and I think Grace Kelly was in at least one more other Hitchcock movie. To Catch a Thief was one. So,
What did Grace Kelly do in her lifetime?
well, she after this movie, this was she was starting to date the Prince of Monaco. Monaco is a small little country in southern Europe, which is like surrounded by France, and very posh area. They have a monarchy, I still believe, but she became Princess Grace. So that was that. But that was after this movie. and yeah, it's people. It's like funny because like people in the Philadelphia area who actually knew her at the time, kind of never saw her again because she went off to A Hollywood, B Monaco, and that was it. I don't think she made any movies after she went on to be in Princess Grace. She was,
What a life, right?
yeah, seriously, yeah,
Like it's an amazing life.
yeah,
It really is.
it really is amazing life. Yeah, um,
Ruined though.
yeah. So another person, very famous person, is Raymond Burr. And I forget the producers that he was meant to look like. He wasn't as old as he was supposed to be in the movie. They made him look older on purpose. And but Raymond Burr at the time was famous for playing Perry Mason. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, they made him look very old. Like spoilers, like 3, 2,
to
1.
one. Yeah,
He looked like way older in this film,
yeah.
and you can be able to pick out what character he is.
Uh huh.
Lars Thorwald.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
We got James Stewart as L.B. Jeffries,
Uh huh.
Grace Kelly as Lisa Fremont,
Uh huh.
Wendell Corey as Tom Doyle, and Thelma Ritter as Stella.
And the nurse.
Is that Judith Evelyn?
Yeah, and she plays Lonely Hearts. What a name for a nurse.
He gave everyone a name. You want to talk about that?
Yes. Well, wait a second. Let's talk about how it starts. Like it starts with him on the phone with his editor. He's a photographer. That's important. That's an important fact that he's a photographer. Um, it's hot now. Remember, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, even you don't have many air conditioners. In fact, I don't even think places were air conditioned for a very long time. So it's in the summer.
Yeah, and these people, if they had it, they were not interested in using their air conditioner. They
No,
wanted to open up their window.
that's right. But he can't move because he has a broken leg. So that's why he has his nurse coming in. And which makes the movie kind of claustrophobic because he's always looking. The only way he can see the people is through the lens of his camera, and that's because I mean you can see the people in the apartments, but to really spy on them, that's his only entertainment. So people, in the 50s, it wasn't really till the 60s till you get TV. In the 50s, you still have radio. I mean, even today, you still have people that turn on the radio. But anyway, um, but TV definitely was. He certainly wouldn't have sat around watching TV. That just was out of the question. It wasn't even around. So yeah, yeah. So his entertainment while he's trying to heal, which took longer back then, was the people. And amazingly enough, I don't think people who watched this at the time knew that that was a set. They believed it was filmed on location. Yes, it was a huge functional set where so they would have maybe like a room that people could walk in.
I guess it's professional, not
Sure.
the panning shots he'd be doing.
Oh yeah.
So you'd be like, you'd start and you'd be looking around and you'd be seeing everyone acting in their own individual
Yeah.
apartments, essentially through their windows, as this guy's looking through his rear window.
Uh
And it seems to be almost continuous at certain times. And then that's
huh.
where the light bulb went off above my head. Hey, was I listening to just like the natural sounds of what was happening around me the whole time? Was he using the natural ambience itself to produce the audio for you? And I don't know. This movie was very entertaining.
Yeah, he did. The answer is yes, he did. Because everything in a Hitchcock movie is very much on purpose. Everything. Yeah. So I mean, he probably had all the.
Everything on purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He probably had all those sounds cued and to come in. Yeah. Or I guess they were thrown later because they didn't do that at the time because you couldn't record certain sounds at the time. But anyway, that's not besides the point. So yes, he nicknamed everybody because that was his entertainment. That's so. Do you know some? Do you remember some of his nicknames that he had for people?
Yeah, he gave everyone a nickname, so after a while, I didn't have to worry about what the character's name was like.
Yes.
Because everyone had to nickname his nickname. So
Yes.
we said before, Judith Evelyn was Miss Lonely Hearts.
Yes.
We had Ross Bagdasarian as a songwriter.
Uh
Georgine Darcy as Miss Torso, the girl that would dance around like in her apartment apparently.
huh. Yeah.
As Ms. Torso.
I remember now where Hitchcock was. He walked across. He walked in the background. There's a street that was on the set, but they had a fake street, and he was walking by at one point. He was carrying something. Yes. Sorry. Go on.
No, I'm good. Uh, where he was? Where was he?
He was on the
My
street.
memory was that he's one of the first directors to ever really put himself into
Yes.
films.
Right. Yeah. But he was on the street in the background in one
All
scene.
right.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. So Mrs. Torso. Yeah. Um, and they all had personalities. They just weren't extras. They all kind of had their own story going on, even though it was all minor to what was really going on. But it helped you figure out it. No, it helped. If you're watching it, you probably think, well, okay, this is a Hitchcock movie, and this is going to be some kind of mystery. Who are these people? And so that helped move the story along. So and nicknaming naming them also helped move that action forward because you want to know you cared about those characters, even though they were minor.
Yeah.
And you especially cared, and this is a big spoiler alert, when the dog dies. And
Oh
the
no. You're gonna talk about that?
well, it's kind of a minor major, you know. It,
Okay.
it
Yeah, I guess.
yeah, because it leads to something else which I won't talk about. But I mean, it's not a tragic scene per se,
Right.
but you kind of feel bad for that lady because she's very upset when that happens. That's the
Yeah, she
point.
also feels bad for the dog.
Yeah, yeah. But the way she's like has like a pulley system with a basket, and she's lowering the dog in and out of the basket, like
It was terrible. It was heart wrenching. I mean,
yeah, yeah, it was. All right, so yeah, there was that, but that's a famous part of the story. But anyway, um, another part was where it's a very '50s conversation, folks. You have Grace Kelly, and she wants to, I guess, marry Jimmy Stewart. And he's like, you can't go around the world with me. That's ridiculous. You're a woman. You have to do this. Blah 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 blah. How would you like to live in a tent for X number of days? How would you like not to breathe? And blah 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 blah. She's like, I could do it. And they had like this big fight. So
yeah.
that's definitely an interesting fight for someone in the '50s because what happened right before the '50s? World War II. And during World War II, you have all these women trying to be in the workforce. And then once the '50s come, they want to remain in the workforce. So that was a issue that Hitch kept in there. So I thought that was interesting. And
Would you say
plus,
that the character Stella was too concerned with love and marriage?
would I say it?
Yeah.
At first, yes, but also it drove her character to do things, even though she was getting like fed up with him, to do things for him and help him figure out what actually is going on in that apartment
Yeah.
across the way, the apartments across the way. Yeah. Um. So yeah, you have that, and then you have
The main character was a guy who, I guess, if you look at it from a certain, from like a certain angle, the guy thrived on action, and he thrived on so much of the action around him while he was stuck there because he had a leg, his leg was what, in the cast,
mm-hmm.
that eventually he got so involved with his surroundings that, in a way, it came to him by the like the resolution of the movie. By the end of the movie, I mean, in the last 10 minutes, yeah, I'd have to say that like he becomes part of what he was looking into. Like you better watch what you ask for because you just might get it.
Yeah,
And if he kept looking for more action, he found action.
he did find action. Yeah.
Some of it might have been thrilling for him at first, but by the end, I know the guy was terrified.
Sure. Very, because he put together pieces, and I use the word pieces very lightly here, things that were he wasn't meant to see at all,
Yeah.
and he did. And
He also used his camera.
at the end, very end, yeah. Well, anyway, so Grace Kelly gets
Yeah.
stuck in the apartment of the villain, and that and it escalates from there, or de-escalates, or I don't know which way you want to go, but it gets pretty tense. Um,
It escalates. It definitely escalates.
escalates, yes, right.
A
Um,
lot of this is in your Rear Window Junior.
oh yes, right.
All this happens in
Disturbia.
Disturbia, by the way.
Yeah, in a different way. Yeah, I'm sure you don't have your '50s elements, but yeah, you have other things going on. Yeah. Um, and the antagonist, I don't want to say villain, the antagonist comes in at the end. I won't give away the ending. Um, and is blinded by the flashes of Jimmy Stewart's camera. And that was how Jimmy Stewart's able to affect us. He's trapped. He's literally trapped in a chair, and he's he's about to be killed. And then other people come in to help. But at first he has to blind this guy from getting to him, and it kind of reminded me, if you fast forward years after the movie, you have Silence of the Lambs, and you have Jodie Foster wearing the vision goggles, and you have that scene where you have the point of view of the lights flashing at you, and that's the same point of view when they have the point of view of Raymond, yeah, and they have the two of them. They go back. What they do, what is called point and counterpoint, where they would show one and then show the other, and then show the one, show the other, and it's also a good storytelling technique as well. So.
I mock my own laugh. I
Yeah.
have a question for you.
Yes.
Jeff gives his neighbors nicknames, Miss Torso, Miss Lonely Heart. What does this suggest about both society and Jeff as a character? I found the answer too. So I know.
Could you repeat that question again, please?
Jeff gives his neighbors nicknames, Miss Torso, Miss Lonely Heart. What does this suggest about
Huh.
both society and Jeff as a character?
Yeah. So, Lonely Heart, for example, is a nurse, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's like saying that, well, that this character will never be married because she has dedicated her life to be a nurse, kind of like a nun in a way, and that was, you can't have in the '50s, you can't have a working mother. You had to stay at home. So that was echoing society as well, and also echoed the fight that he was having with Grace Kelly in the movie. And so it's kind of a derogatory thing calling her Lonely Hearts, but at the time it also was kind of funny, comical kind of thing. So
Yeah, which he did incorporate into a lot of the stuff Alfred Hitchcock did.
yeah, you like to
He was
have
never
these
he
hints.
liked putting comedy into.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes,
Jeff's
yes.
choice of nicknames infer that society is superficial,
Mm-hmm.
never looking beyond appearances to see what people are really like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I'm like, that's a good one-liner almost.
Yes, it is. That's perfect. Yes. Yeah, and it's
Great
interesting.
movie.
It's interesting that um, he uh, he uses this
Sorry, I
as
couldn't find
part
it
of,
again. I'm looking for Alfred Hitchcock in the movie.
and
I think
as a
here's someone.
as a device. Well, I think you do see him in the background walking across the street, because I think I remember that, um, because um, the antagonist has to go out into the street, and then you're expecting the antagonist to come back, and I think that's when Alfred Hitchcock walks by, but I could be wrong. Um, because there's the whole thing about the wife being there, and um,
Oh, okay, hold on. I'm gonna share this with you. Okay.
okay,
I'm sorry. I didn't have this program's chat open. Here, open that and then share it. If the link works, it should work. I think someone took a still of it, of where he was. It's dastardly.
I don't know if I'll be able to share it, because in order to record I have to share, but I can talk about what's in the link. Oh, you were right. It was
Yeah, because
one
I
that.
think he's winding the clock.
Yeah.
It's really slight. It's not supposed to be like, oh, there he is. He's on the screen for
Yeah.
a long time. I'm like, oh, that's got luck, and then it's over.
You barely even recognize that that's him, though, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Look, the window's covering him.
yeah. Also, it's the expression. And he's also kind of older by this time, anyway. But yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is that the only?
26 minutes
It's
into the film of her window,
yeah.
where you'll see it.
I thought he was in the street, but I guess I was wrong. I guess that was somebody
I mean,
else.
it could have been either of the other movies. There's two others.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, anyway, but anyway, yeah, that's pretty cool. He's winding the clock and the pianist. Yeah, I forget
Yeah.
the significance of having the guy with the piano, but there was a significance to that. Um,
Oh, there was a question for that. What happens to
the
what's
nurse,
her name? Miss
learning
Lockhart.
arts. Yes.
Yeah. Do they get together? The songwriter or the
Mm,
pianist?
I don't know. Do they?
I think that's supposed to be the answer. Okay, never mind.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows, right? Yeah.
I just had it here, but I already closed the window. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'm still looking at Hitchcock winding the clock.
Okay. But I think we covered
Good job. Yes,
everything that we
absolutely.
want to talk about in that movie. Just trying to think if there's anything else about him. But yeah, that was good. Um, all right. Well, everyone, like and subscribe, and hope everyone has a wonderful day, evening, whenever you're listening or watching this. And thank you, Mr. Bob.
Thank you very much for having me. Vertigo, Psycho, North by Northwest, Rear Window.
Wait, 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 wait. What? What?
I'm just trying to name other shows, other movies he has. It's excellent.
You know,
Birds.
a lot of these movies, especially
Hurry up,
like
get it in.
we have plenty of time, but we have uh, what's his name? Oh God, I'm having a horrible time tonight. I must be tired. But no, but the guy who made Spaceballs, Mel Brooks, right? Yes,
That's Mel Brooks, right?
yeah. He made High Anxiety, which kind of makes fun of Hitchcock movies, and
How dare he?
it covers Vertigo. It covers The Birds. I think it probably, definitely, probably has Psycho in there somewhere, and Psycho has been copied. I mean, made
Yes,
fun of
yes.
too. So, uh, yeah, I would, at some point, maybe next year or at some point in our lives, we have to talk about Psycho, just a whole episode about Psycho because Psycho is quite well, because that has a very big surprise ending too, and there's interesting
Yeah.
things that go on in that movie as well. Um, yeah, and of course Janet Leigh, her daughter is Jamie Lee Curtis. So anyway, to be continued. And actually, Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be in yet another Halloween movie that's coming out. Ugh.
Oh, another one. Two
Yes.
more.
Yes. And
Excellent.
Jamie Lee Curtis is already 152 years old. No, I love her. So yeah.
Yeah, but she should be in these movies.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'll
Did
take
you
10.
did you see the last one? The last Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually did. Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, here we go. But anyway, so.
Yeah, at the end, I'm still looking at it. Like, no spoilers. Like, at the end, I'm
Mhm.
looking at the screen. I'm like, well, is he dead or not? I'm like,
And he and Michael Myers himself must be like, like 80, but yeah, that's besides the point too. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what the heck? It'll be on again, I'm sure.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Have a good whatever, everyone, and be safe out there. Bye bye.